Hello there, people of the internet. So I have an interesting one for you guys today. I was asked by somebody who views the channel to do a video talking about if I could only pick one singular cartridge to keep. I could have any amount of firearms, I could keep all of my firearms, but they all have to be chambered in this one particular cartridge. And I can only pick that cartridge. I can't do anything else. What would it be? What cartridge would I pick if I was put in this kind of situation? So if I was put in that situation with, like, if I could only have one rifle cartridge, I'd probably go with 223 5.56 here in the US, simply because it's the most common, it's what the military is currently using. That decision, that choice might change as the military adopts this 6.8 cartridge as their new standard round. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? But I would probably go with the 223 5.56 just because of how ridiculously predominant it is here in the United States. Now, that being said, this right here is a cartridge that I have to pick for everything. And I'll be honest, having handguns chambered in a 223 5.56, there's just no handguns out there with the exception of one singular style of handgun, which is like a break open single shot handgun. It's not very accurate. That is definitely a 223 5.56 is an intermediate caliber round, and you need a nice long barrel to be able to effectively burn that powder to gain the velocities necessary for a 223 5.56 to be terminally effective. And it's just not a good round. So then I was thinking, well, how about something else like 7.62 by 39? It's 30 caliber round. It's, predominant. I can find it pretty easily. Lots of different loadings out there for it. It would just be a good overall cartridge, but then I ran into the same problem. If I were to have that chambered in a handgun, it would just not be great. It's a fantastic rifle cartridge, but it would just not be great. So I was like, all right, well, I mostly use handguns. So what if we look into something for handguns? Most of what I do with my handguns, I run a 9mm semi-automatic. And that is mainly what I carry. I carry it on my side, and if I were to find myself in some sort of situation, a 9mm semi-automatic would be ideal. Especially because I have it concealed on me, I have it with me at all times on person. But then I was thinking, 9mm, if I had something go down at home, I have this huge open field that's a few hundred yards long. 9mm would not be ideal for shooting at these farther distances. So I was really scratching my head, and I was like, all right, 9mm probably not going to be what I go for, especially if I go out like deer hunting or boar hunting or something like that. 9mm is just too anemic for that. Fantastic defensive cartridge, but not something I'd want to go and take out 400-pound boar with. So I really had to sit down and scratch my head and ask myself if I could, what would? And I came to a good, solid conclusion. It's a good, solid middle ground of a choice of cartridge. And that is, I have it somewhere here, a 357/38 special. For the arguments of this video, we're going to go ahead and argue those rounds to be interchangeable, since one can be fired inside of if you have a 357 rifle, you can fire both 357 and 38. They're both essentially different versions of the same cartridge. So I'm going to go ahead and include both of those in this argument. If I could only choose one, the 357/38 special would be what it is that I go with. Now, the main reason for that is 38 special. Obviously, you can get handguns in 38 special, very concealable, lightweight, comfortable to carry handguns in 38 special. It is absolutely a adequate defensive round, especially if you go with some proper defensive ammunition, something that's not a full metal jacket or something like that. The 38 special can be extremely effective, especially if you start rocking +P+ ammunition. However, if I'm out, game gathering or squirrel hunting or doing whatever it is that I do here, because I go after birds and squirrels and raccoons and armadillos and all sorts of stuff, and I don't want to completely destroy the pelts, I'm not going to choose a 30-06 full power rifle cartridge as my only cartridge if one of the things I want to do is go hunt gophers and small game. But a 38 special round, especially a lightweight 38 special round, that would do wonders at taking out small game without completely obliterating it. However, if I wanted to go after a larger game, something like a 357 Magnum would be ideal, especially because I could have that chambered inside of a rifle. This right here is my Rossi R92 stainless steel rifle, and it is gorgeous. And unfortunately, you know what really sucks? I dropped it and I marred up the stock a little bit. But that's alright, guns are meant to be used, and this one I got to use. I'm taking this hunting on the next hunting season. But 357 Magnum, if you have a 158 grain projectile, is going to travel about 1,500 feet per second out of a barrel length like this. Now, with it traveling 100 or 1,500 feet per second, at 200 yards, it is going to drop approximately 20 inches. So if you have to defend yourself with this rifle out to about 200 yards, as long as you aim in this general area of whatever's going on, you're going to hit somewhere in this general area if you're rocking 158 grain projectiles out of a long barrel, since they drop about 20 inches. So if I got someone 200 yards away and I decide to myself, hey, that person has got to stop doing what they're doing, I aim for here, I hit about here, and that should get rid of the threat, especially if I hit them with a 158 grain soft point, especially if they're not wearing body armor, which a vast majority of people nowadays are not wearing. For the most part, people wearing body armor are people that are getting ready to defend life and liberty, and not necessarily criminals that are going out there to cause any sort of nefarious issues. Not always the case, but not the common practice by any stretch of the imagination. But out to about 200 yards, it is going to be effective enough. I can make shots out to about 200 yards effective enough with 357 Magnum, and I feel like as I get better and more progressive with it, as I train harder with it and get more, what's the word I'm looking for, more familiar with the trajectories and whatnot of the bullet drop of that, I should be able to push that out to 300, potentially even 400 yards with adequate training and practice and whatnot. And I need good quality ammunition to make sure that I don't have a very large cone of fire. Now, that is just with the 158 grain projectile, which is one of the more common rounds that you're going to find. However, if you get your hands on some 125 grain projectiles, which is another common loading for the 357 Magnum, that right there should travel anywhere from 16 to 1,700 feet per second, depending on your barrel length, and depending on quite a few things. If you get yourself a barrel length like this right here, I think that this is a 20-inch barrel, if memory serves me correctly. But if you get yourself, this is a rifle length, not a carbine length. If you get yourself like a musket length rifle where the barrel length goes out to here, which also increases your magazine capacity, you are going to increase your velocity as well. So if you have a lighter weight bullet, which is already going to be traveling faster, going out of a longer barrel, so the pressures behind the cartridge are therefore longer, pushing the cartridge even faster, then you would get yourself more velocity. So you would get yourself a pretty good, powerful, potent round. 357 Magnum is definitely nothing to scoff at, and I could get 357 Magnum in handguns as well, but I like the option of having the 38 Special for situations where I don't necessarily want to put a bunch of energy onto my target. It's just one of those things where I'm like, there are things that I want to go after that I don't want to just completely turn into mist. So this right here is a 142 grain full metal jacket. It is a flat nose, and I have a jug of water right there. This is a 357 Magnum. Let's see what it does to that jug of water. And this will be a good representation of what we could expect if you were to use this for any practical purposes. In my case, I'll be using this against deer. Yep, that would absolutely take out a deer. I'll be using 158 grain soft points against the deer. But this right here was just what I had on hand. So let's have a look at this. All right, we have got ourselves quite the sizable exit wound in the back, which is good. That means a lot of energy transferred from that 357 into our water jug and split it open adequately. Right here is our entrance wound, which also split open very adequately. It also left a fist-sized hole in the ground because the projectile went through into the ground, still had a lot of energy left, and transferred that energy into the ground. If I had a soft point or something to where more energy transferred onto this target, then we might have seen more damage done onto the target instead of being put into the dirt. However, if we have ourselves a thicker, larger target, something with bone, meat, muscle, deer, boar, whatever it is I'm doing, all that energy will be transferred onto that target instead of just passing through like what we just saw with this full metal jacket. So what is you guys' choice? If you could have any gun you want, have at it, you know, go for it, but you could only choose one cartridge for all of your different firearms, what would it be? In my case, I think 357/38 would be my choice. That would be what I would go to. Now, if anyone is angry at me for choosing technically two different cartridges, although they're both kind of like different versions of the same cartridge, if anyone is mad at me out there for that, I would choose 357 and I would just undercharge that to 38 special specifications because I'm a reloader and I can do that. So if you are upset at me for that, then there's your answer. I would get myself a 357 handgun and 357 lever action, just like this right here. And that right there would be what it is that I would pick. And of course I have all of my other stuff. However, I have no idea how I would transfer that stuff to be 357. Let's just talk like if it was magically just, bam, snap your fingers, it's all 357. I'd be fine with that. I would absolutely be fine with that, especially considering I don't really touch out past 200, 300 yards, normally not past 100. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comments, and I'll see y'all on the next video.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.